when everyone else is.
All right, sir, you are all set to go.
All right, thank you, Don. Good evening, it's 6 p.m. and I'd like to call the December 14th meeting of the Town Council to order. If we could please take a moment of silence to reflect on all those affected by the tragic tornado that happened last Friday, causing a trail of devastation across 6 states. Thank you all. In accordance with Mass General Law, tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. I would ask if anyone in the audience is recording, if you could please identify yourself.
I don't see any hands, Mike.
Thank you, Don. This meeting is being held virtually through a Zoom webinar pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Jeannie, do we have anyone signed up for public comments?
No, there's not.
Okay. I have a public comment, or council comment. Anyone else have any council comments this evening? Ralph?
I do, Mike. Actually, I have 2 of them. The first is I would just like to reach out. I was not here in November when I found out about Karine Tranghese retiring. And I would just like to give a huge shout out. When I first got on the planning board, she helped me immensely go through the benefits package and all. And she took her time, and she will be sorely missed. She was a huge asset to our town. And I would just like to say congratulations on her retirement and wish her the best. The second is, I'd just like to give a shout out to our fellow counselor, Tom O'Connor. I don't know if you guys were aware that he's been in and out of the hospital. He's had some medical issues, and he's recovering. He's back at home doing well, but it's going to take a little bit. So I just want to send out well wishes to him and hopefully a speedy recovery.
Thanks, Ralph. My comment is in regards to John Petrin, and I would ask Don Mackey, is John in the audience by any chance?
Yes, he is, Mike. Hang on a second.
Hi, John.
Mr. President, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. So I'd just like you to say hello to the other council members. Just a brief introduction. John is with Community Paradigm and will be assisting us in the search going forward. So, John, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. So it's we thought it'd be a good idea if I just at least give you some FaceTime this evening, let you see me. So I've been with Community Paradigm for several years. I think you've gotten my bio from Bernie Lynch, and I retired a few years ago as a town administrator in Burlington and have been in municipal business for 40 years. And so these days I actually coordinate the Suffolk program through the MMA. So I teach in the Suffolk program and coordinate, and I work with Bernie and his firm on the side doing searches and other management reviews moving forward. So I certainly look forward to working with your community and with the council as we move forward to find your next town manager.
All right. Thanks, John. I know you're very passionate about what you do, and we're all looking forward to moving ahead. So thank you for taking the time to join us this evening.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Mary, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, I do. The report that I authored last Thursday has a few updates. So as we go through it, I'll let you know what those are when we reach them. The first item, I just wanted to comment on our new health director, Tammy Spencer. She joined the town staff on November 15th, which was a little bit later than we anticipated, but she needed to give her former employer, the town of Southwick, a little extra time before she left that position as health director over there. But in the short time she's been here, she's hit the ground running, and she's already arranged for a vaccination clinic at the Council on Aging with Aaron Kobler's support and cooperation for December 21st. That's a state-sponsored program. All are welcome to participate. They'll have all shots available, first, second, and booster doses. I'm not sure of what vaccine they're using, but I'm under the impression that both Moderna, or all Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J will be available. She did give me a brief update on the COVID statistics for town that are not in the report. We have currently 87 residents that are in isolation due to a positive COVID test. 24 of those cases are pediatric cases under the age of 18. The town's current positivity rate is 5.91%, and the overall vaccination rate for the community is 66% of the community's residents are fully vaccinated. So she's keeping tabs on the status of the community and the unfortunate resurgence of COVID, or I guess if it's not resurgence, it just refuses to go away. So we're still fighting that battle, and she's doing a very good job at it. The next couple of items are past items. They deal both with the Veterans Day holiday and celebration that the town had. On Wednesday, the 10th, there was a very nice drive-through luncheon, again at the Council on Aging. And we were very fortunate because it was a nice sunny day, and all the veterans that attended and their families were sitting in their parked cars in the lot. And there were a number of volunteers from the Council on Aging staff and others who distributed boxed lunches to the attendees. There was music, there were speeches by several of the local politicians, Representative Ash and Pupolo among them. Terry Glesko made some very moving remarks, and the event was very well attended. So again, the staff at the Council on Aging does a great job putting together these events for certain demographics that are very meaningful and moving when you're there. The following day, on Thursday, was the parade that did not occur last year. So it's a short parade, as most of you know, from the VFW Hall down Maple Street to the front entrance of Town Hall for a wreath laying ceremony. Mike Kane and I marched together. So it was 4th of July and Veterans Day this year. And Mike laid a wreath at the Rotary. I had the honor of laying a wreath at the memorial that's on the town, just in front of the front door of Town Hall. There were several speeches and awards given to members of the VFW unit, and our veteran service officer, Michelle Barrett, I yielded my floor time, if you will, to her because I wanted the community to see her and get to know her. And she gave some remarks about her newly assumed duties at the Council on Aging office, and is very enthusiastic about her work and what she intends to bring to that job. And on a very positive note, the district has been certified. I've been reporting the last few months about some difficulties we've had getting approval from Boston based on staffing and a few other administrative issues. But just last week, we received communication from the Veterans Secretary's office that our district has been certified through January 30th of 2023. This allows for Michelle to obtain the training and access to the software programs that she needs to better service the veterans. Also, the DPW is just waiting for the final door jamb to come in to create the final steps for her new office, which will be in the Council on Aging building, just opposite where the current office is. The doorway to the new space wasn't wide enough to accommodate wheelchairs. So that's the reason for the delay, but the office is very, very nice. She's happy, the district's happy, and I'm very grateful that the Commonwealth saw saw it through to give us our certification for that very important position. The police department had a Stuff the Cruiser event on a week ago Saturday, December 4th. And my understanding is it's the first such event that this police department has sponsored. It was very well attended. The gifts were unbelievable. They had stuffed a cruiser, an SUV cruiser, and Jeff Niznik, the officer in charge of the event, if you will, engaged the services of a trailer that was hitched up to somebody's pickup truck. And that trailer was full of gifts. So they were thrilled with the outcome, the generosity of the community. I didn't realize how much Legos cost because that was my gift of choice, but it was a fun event and Jeff looked great. He was bedecked in a nice necklace of Christmas lights, and it appeared as though all the officers that were involved there were having a very nice day of it. I had the opportunity to sit at a high school civics class with Connor O'Shea, Bethany Yao, and Sarah Trillo of the school committee in late November as part of their civics community engagement curriculum. So we met at 9 a.m. in the morning. The four of us sat in the front of the auditorium, and the students were able to fire away with their various questions as to how things run in town. And surprising to me, most of the questions dealt with budget and specific to interest that the particular students had, but it was a very nice experience, and it was good to have that interaction between the town officials and the student body. So we hope to be able to do that again in the near future. Negotiations have also been continuing full steam ahead with the 3 labor unions that are currently in negotiations. And my report indicated that negotiations were ongoing. And I learned today that all 3 unions have forwarded the town's proposal and memorandums of agreement for ratification. So I'm very optimistic that those 3 union contracts will be settled before the week is out, and certainly before the end of December. So I'll be able then to forward those documents to the council for your consideration and ratification. It'll be very, very good to put those issues to rest for several more years to come. I have been forwarding the capital plans as received. I did receive the school department's capital plan, the DPW's capital plan, and those are the 2 most voluminous ones, as you know. So those were forwarded in their entirety to the members of the capital advisory committee. And Steve has issued his directive to the department heads seeking their operational budgets as well as their capital budget requests by mid-January. So the hope was that by distributing the larger packages as soon as they were received in my office, it'll give the members of the capital committee more of an opportunity to at least review the requests and the backups before the meetings ensue, to have a more formal discussion about those requests. Westcom, our other third-party board that the town manager sits on, met twice since we last met to discuss ongoing administrative matters. There's been a human resources issue that the district does not have a human resources department. And all of the administrative tasks of that fall to Erin Hastings and her deputy. And in addition to all the other work that they do, there were some problems that arose as a result of that. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. And the other main issue for discussion has been the development of that Schwinnigan Drive property as the new dispatch center. Before you tonight, you did receive a letter from Erin. Well, it came to my office, but I believe I forwarded it to the council, seeking your, or notifying you that the district intends to bond for the amount of money necessary to hire an architect and a project manager for the renovation of that building. East Long Meadow, as well as the other member municipalities, has the right to reject and veto that request if you wish to do so. I hope you don't, but so the letter was intended to notify of your rights, and I think Steve might have I don't know if you have a motion on for that tonight, Steve, but if you need information about it, I have the district agreement here, and there is no liability resulting to the town in the event of default. The operating agreement of the district gives the district the authority to bond once the matter has been approved by the finance committee of the district, which it has been. And they've borrowed before, you may recall, just to purchase the building at Schwinnigan Drive. So it's the same instance. Now it's just for renovation of that building. So that's what that issue is all about. But it's taken a fair amount of the board of directors' time at Westcom just to get the details straightened out. I'm glad that Ralph mentioned Corinne Tranghese because she's the subject of the next paragraph of my report. She will be sorely missed. There's no doubt about that. Her departure has exposed a massive amount of work that she was doing pretty much single-handedly. And by virtue of her departure, I think that department is going to need some assistance in next year's budget cycle. And one of the items on Steve's report tonight is very specific to HR. It involves that Trusaic contract for ACA reporting, and I'll let Steve go into that. But Corinne did a massive amount of work and never complained. I kind of wish now that she had complained so that we could have had a little bit more notice of what the extent of how much she was stretching herself out in order to accomplish everything. But she basically, you know, particularly to the retiree function, manages the entire town employee population. So it's an enormous amount of work for one person. We have hired a new benefits administrator. His name is Christopher Lizotte. He started on December 6th, and Chris has his master's degree in business administration, and as I said, joined us a week and a half ago. He has formerly worked at Mass Mutual, and I have no fear that he has the brain power and the desire to learn as much as he can about Veterans Administration, and he will work well with Mariola and Joan to tackle the numerous issues that are present in that office. There's a section in my report where I sort of go on about the capacity issues of the town, and I know you have a long agenda tonight, so I don't need to belabor the point, but there are several departments, Corinne's resignation or retirement being key among them, that are desperately in need of additional staff in order to function at their highest level and give the town the operational efficiency that I think the department heads, I know the department heads want to provide and are having struggles with. So I'll just leave it at that for tonight, that in the upcoming budget preparation, we're going to take a lot of time to try to figure out how best to balance the needs of the community with some special projects, with some very basic staffing issues. I have asked all the department heads to give me an email highlighting their 3 top priorities for their department. And I've received about a third of them back already, and without a question, the number 1 need recited by all the department heads is staffing. So just a word to the wise, which is what you folks are. We did have I thought a very nice meeting on Thursday of last week with the advisory committee on capital. It was a special presentation regarding Heritage Park redevelopment. Bruce Fenney went through the schematics, the design. Donna Prather gave some remarks about the demands on her department by those families in town that really want recreational facilities. Some members of the Rec Commission were also there, highlighting the need for not only sporting activities, but other recreational type activities that we're just stretched to capacity, and the town is losing the fields at Lenox that they used for soccer and other sporting activities. So it's crunch time is coming sooner than we expected, and certainly sooner than we're prepared for. Let's see. The last item I wanted to mention was that the town received a community compact grant, which was applied for by Karen Korpinen with Ryan Quimby's help. We received $114,000 of a $138,000 request for a disaster relief backup system. So Karen was very instrumental in that. And just so you know, that's more than 3 times what her salary is, just that one grant alone. So very pleased that she was able to accomplish that for us. And she's also working on the town's hazard mitigation update plan. Ours expires in January of 22. Karen has applied through the Pioneer Valley for a grant to complete that updating of the mitigation plan. And I received a letter today, or an email rather, from MEMA saying that they received our request and they were going to forward it to FEMA. So we hope that we'll get the money. It's sort of an in-kind transaction where money is awarded to Pioneer Valley Planning, and they in turn work with our staff to update our mitigation report. Lastly, Bay Path University has gifted $1,000 to the police and fire departments respectively. Those gifts will be subject of a formal acceptance vote by your body at some future date. But they have, the cover letter suggested that the money is to be used for any special piece of equipment or professional development opportunity in each department. So we're very grateful for that generosity from the community. And that's it for tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the report. Any questions for Mary? Okay, we do have 4 sets of minutes for approval this evening. I'll start with a motion to approve the November 9th open session minutes.
I move to approve the November 9th, 2021 open session minutes.
I second that.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. This requires a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Ralph?
I need to abstain.
Abstained. Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? And Kathy's muted.
Nope.
Kathy's still muted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
There you
sorry.
go.
I pressed that button 3 times. I abstain.
Thank you. Connor?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move along with a motion to approve the November 9th executive session minutes.
I make a motion to approve the November 9th, 2021 executive session minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? I'll start with a yes. Ralph?
Abstain.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Abstain.
And Connor?
Yes.
A motion to approve the November 15th special minutes from that meeting.
I move to approve the November 15th, 2021 special session minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? I'm a yes. Ralph?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Abstain.
And Connor?
Yes.
And lastly, approval of the November 29th special meeting minutes.
I move to approve November 29, 2021 special meeting minutes.
I second.
Discussion? Ralph?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you all. Nothing under communications and correspondence this evening, but we do have two public hearings. Our first public hearing scheduled for 6:15 this evening regarding the liquor license fee schedule bylaw. This public hearing is being conducted tonight for a second reading. And I'll introduce the council. I'm Mike Kane. We have Ralph Page, Marilyn Richards, Don Anderson, Kathy Hill, and Connor O'Shea. Connor, do you have the bylaw close by where you could read that?
I do. Let me just pull that right back up. All right. So proposed bylaw for the town of East Long Meadow. Purpose: to update bylaw 6.050 by adding a fee schedule to the liquor license rules and regulations, sections 6.050E, and changing the heading to 6.050 liquor license rules, regulations, and fees. And 6.050 liquor license rules, regulations, and fees. E, fees. 1, annual liquor license fees. A, wine and malt off premises, $1,000. B, all alcohol off premises, $2,000. C, wine and malt on premises, $1,000. D, all alcohol on premises, $2,200. E, club, $650. F, Veterans Club, $650. G, Farmer Series pouring permit, $500. 2, one-day liquor license, $65.
Thanks, Connor. Jeannie, could you read the legal notice, please?
Sure. The East Long Meadow Town Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 9, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom webinar for the purpose of addressing the adoption of a liquor license fee schedule. Information relating to this proposed bylaw is on file with the town clerk and available for review by the public on the town's website. For the council, Jean R. Quaglietti, Town Clerk, Clerk of the Council.
Thanks, Jeannie. The applicant being the town or our LOA, I would ask any members of the LOA tonight, maybe Kathy, maybe you have a little information on the reasons and rationale for the proposed amendment.
Actually, I would defer to Ralph because this the bylaw emanated from the bylaw committee.
Great.
So Mike, all this is doing is taking what we currently charge now, and we're just creating a bylaw so that the public finds it easier, especially once we go ahead with the e-codification, to be able to see what the actual fees are in writing in our general bylaws. The only one that we've added is the Farmer Series pouring permit, which it came up recently that we didn't have a pouring permit and that we needed one and we needed to set a price for it.
That's my recollection. Anyone else have any input or discussion required the subject matter? Hearing and seeing none at this point, then I will open the meeting up for any public input. If there is anyone in the audience, I would ask the speakers state their name and address for the record. So Don, do you see anyone in the audience that would like to speak under the public portion?
I do not, Mike.
Okay, this will be rather simple. We'll close the public portion of the meeting. Any further comments from the council? And seeing none, what I'm going to do is close the public hearing followed by a roll call vote, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve. So roll call vote for close. I'm a yes. Ralph?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And Connor?
Yes.
And I'll entertain a motion to approve the adoption of the fee schedule.
I move to approve the adoption of a liquor license fee schedule bylaw as presented.
I second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll start with myself as a yes. Ralph,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Marilyn.
Yes.
Thank you all. We're right on schedule for our second public hearing this evening regarding the community block grant. This public hearing is to address the reprogramming of an existing community development block programs fund, which will be presented by the Pioneer Valley Commission Senior Planner, John O'Leary. Again, I'll introduce the council members this evening. I'm Mike Kane. Underneath me on the screen is Marilyn Richards.
Hi.
To my right, Ralph Page, Connor O'Shea, Don Anderson, and Kathy Hill. Jeannie, could you read that legal notice, please? And you're
You're
muted.
muted, Jeannie.
Sorry. The town of East Long Meadow will conduct a public hearing regarding their FY18 Community Development Block Grant Program, which will include a budget amendment to transfer funds from the Housing Rehabilitation Assistance Program to the ADA Sidewalk Improvement Project. The town is looking at transferring up to $150,000 in this grant-funded program. The hearing will be held virtually on Tuesday, December 14 at 6 p.m. Any person or organization having questions or comments concerning the proposed amendment will have an opportunity to be heard. Those unable to attend can send written comments prior to the hearing to the East Long Meadow Town Clerk, 60 Center Square, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028.
Thanks, Jeannie. Don, do you see Mr. O'Leary in the audience?
He's here.
He's
And
here.
there he is. Hi, John. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Michael?
Doing fine. Any information you can shed on the subject matter would be appreciated.
Okay, great. Well, first off, I want to thank the council for the opportunity to allow me to conduct this hearing tonight. Nice to see all of you again. So as you may recall, a few months back, I presented to the council and the town an update on the performance of the hearing. So tonight, I just wanted to do a quick update more recently, and then go over a proposed amendment to the grant. So just starting as a reminder, more so than anything, that to date, the grant has funded an accessibility related planning study at the town hall building, which was valued at approximately $50,000. It's also funded a roof replacement project at the Inward Commons housing complex. That project was valued at approximately $140,000. The grant has also provided initial funding to develop and operate a mobile food pantry that is run out of the senior center. That was valued at approximately $70,000. And then finally, through the town's housing rehabilitation assistance program, we have funded approximately $200,000 worth of rehabilitation to 9 units throughout the town. Those things include doing over the roofing, siding, weatherization, things and the like. So that brings us to the potential or the proposed program amendment. So through the grant, we had up to $360,000 available to rehabilitate housing units. Over the past several months, we have not received any new applicants or applications, and there just doesn't seem to be any interest in the program. So with that being said, we wanted to be able to take, and I should state by saying we, the Community Development Advisory Committee and myself, thought it would be best that we don't underutilize the remaining $150,000 or approximately $150,000 of CDBG funds that the town does have available to use. And so we went over a few projects, potential projects that we thought could be best utilized under the CDBG program. And what I mean by that is that not only is it eligible through the CDBG program, but also would be able to complete this project within a timeline that we have remaining in the grant. And then one that we thought was very impactful. And so just going into the actual project itself, it is relatively self-explanatory, but it is the ADA Sidewalk Improvement Project. So that's looking at replacing the curb ramps or entrance ramps to each of the sidewalks and bringing that up into compliance with ADA standards. And so Bruce Feeney Fenny and myself, we've identified approximately or at least 40 different sites where there are sidewalks in town that could definitely use this upgrade. And so what we had anticipated is that we would be able to reprogram these funds with the council's approval, go out to bid over the winter, and then construction would start in early spring and be completed by June or early summer. So that's what is part of the proposed amendment. And of course, before submitting it to the Department of Housing and Community Development, wanted to make sure we had the council's approval and see if there's any questions from either the council or any residents in town.
Okay. John, thank you for a very thorough set of comments and suggestions. I know it was very helpful for me, and I appreciate the preparation and work you put into this.
Of course, thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to ask Don Mackey if there's anyone in the public. We'll open the public portion of the hearing here. And again, if there are any, I would ask the speakers state their name and address for the record.
I don't see anyone.
Okay, now we will close the public portion of the hearing. Does the council have any further questions for John? Ralph?
John, I just have one question, and it's more clarification, and I probably ask you every single time. This is an FY18 Community Development Block Grant Program. So what we're saying is this started back in fiscal 18, and we've continued it along, doing great different projects along the way, I'm assuming.
That's correct. Yep. Yes, exactly. So it has been a long time coming.
It has. So with using the roughly 150,000 and reprogramming it, does that bring the 18 Community Development Block Grant to an end? And then if we want another one, we have to reapply. Is that the way it's working?
That's correct. Exactly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Meryl?
Thank you. John, thank you very much. My question has to do with, you identified 40 locations where these ADA modifications should be put in place. Now, we're embarking on a sidewalk program. Now, it's my understanding that all the sidewalks that we're doing are new, and so they won't conflict with one another. I just want to make sure that we don't do an update on a sidewalk that's going to somehow be modified going forward in this new sidewalk program. And I don't know who can answer that question. Ralph?
No, that's a great question. And so I'm actually working in concert with Bruce. And so I will make sure that we've identified, and make sure that doesn't happen where we're, doing double work.
Okay, because I'm sure the new sidewalks will have, I would assume that the new sidewalks would have those adjustments made right from the start. But I just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing something and then redoing it with the new program.
Nope.
Thank you.
It's a great point.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, and I don't see any at this point, I will close the public hearing with a roll call vote, and they'll entertain a motion followed by the closing of the public hearing. Regarding the roll call, Ralph?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Kathy?
Yes.
And we'll entertain a motion. Let me just make sure I have this right. To authorize the PVC to submit the contract amendment to Massachusetts Department of Housing.
I move to authorize the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to submit the contract amendment to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development to transfer $150,000 from the Housing Rehabilitation Program into the ADA Sidewalk Improvement Project.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And Kathy?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Thank you. Under licensing matters, it's that time of year again. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to review the document. So I will entertain a motion to approve the 2022 annual license renewals.
I make a motion to approve the 2022 annual license renewal as presented in Exhibit I, contingent upon the licensee's compliance with all town departments.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Okay, hearing and seeing none. I just want to add, I did spend some time with Jeannie this week and looked at everything, and everything appears to be in order. And I am a yes with the roll call. Ralph,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy,
yes.
and Connor.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along to financial matters. We have obviously quite a few subject matters to go through. And I believe Steve will be able to give us a good presentation of all the line items. And the first item would be the Westcom Regional Dispatch Bond for Architectural and Engineering Services. Did you have any comments on that, Steve, or?
Yeah, they, as Mary stated, Westcom's bought the old Saltner College. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but the college over in Chicopee. They want to do renovations for the use. The renovations they're expecting to cost around $13.3 million. Per the agreement, if they default on it, it will not come back on the individual towns. As the chair of the finance committee went through it, we hired a bond counsel and a financial advisor, Hilltop and Locklord, who we use in town here, and went through, and we're going through the process now of seeing what requirements they need, et cetera. We sent them over financials. So this is just the next step. As Mary says, much like when they bought the building, this is the next step to renovate, to get it ready to use, so they can open and house and expand Westcom as we need to.
All right, thank you for that. The second item, I would ask for a motion to approve the funding of the $136,488.10 for the ambulance receipts.
So Mike, I move to approve funding of $136,488.10 from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation for the purchase lease of a new F-550 road rescue ambulance with equipment.
Second.
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Connor. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none.
So
Connor?
Mike-
Oh, I'm sorry. Ralph?
So if I understand this right, basically what we're looking at doing is leasing an ambulance so that we can take the one that was donated to us basically out of service, but still have a backup, which would probably be the very first one we bought would now become the backup because it's got the most miles on it. So it's just a matter of rotating another one in, if I'm assuming correctly.
That's how I'm understanding it, I believe. Steve, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, and when talking to the chief, I believe he's in the audience tonight, that's what he said to me, is that the donated one has 188,000 miles on it, and the ambulance one, which Councilor Page referenced, has 80,000 right now. And so he wants to get another one. And the big thing to remember with the new one is that with all the shortages and everything going on in the world today, it's going to be a year or so before we even get that. So these mileage numbers are actually very conservative because in a year from now, they'll be that much higher. And if we don't, the other thing that's been happening is due to the shortage, prices go through the roof. We've all heard about the inflation. And right now, according to the chief, he expects in his discussion with the dealer, he expects the price to go up by July by 5 to 7%. It's an estimate. It may not, but realistically, it's going to go up. And I think it's prudent. The ambulance fund is doing very well. And it's a good time to do it now to lock in the price and move forward with it.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Is any further discussion on that subject? Hearing and seeing none, I'm a yes. Ralph?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Marilyn?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me see. The third line item is I'll entertain a motion to approve funding for prior year's bills of $594.16.
I motion to approve funding of prior year bills of $594.16, $412.50 from the clerk's FY22 budget, and $181.66 from the Recreation Department's FY22 budget.
And I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that line item? Hearing and seeing none. I'll start with Ralph.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And Connor?
Yes.
Okay. Next line item, motion to approve funding of $15,500 from free cash.
I move to approve funding of $15,500 from free cash to fund the first 2 years of a 3-year contract with Trusaic.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Start with Kathy.
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. The next motion I'll entertain is to approve funding of $6,000 from free cash.
I move to approve funding of $6,000 from free cash to fund the ice rink.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ralph?
So Mike, I had the opportunity to talk to Donna a little bit today. One of the things they're looking at is like a little storage shed. And so I asked her, thinking a little outside the box, if we could also use that for up at the community gardens during the summer months. So that way there wouldn't just be sitting around and it would be like a dual purpose. And she said that was exactly what she was thinking, to use it in the winter at the ice skating rink, to use it up there. So I think it's a good use. I think she's really thinking outside the box and keeping things moving. And I have no issue at all with the $6,000 from free cash.
I would just like to add, I went down there on numerous occasions last year, and this rink is open to all residents, and people got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And let's hope the weather cooperates this year for skating, and we'll get it opened up again. So any other discussion? Okay, Ralph?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And Connor?
Yes.
Okay. Our next motion to entertain is to approve funding of $10,090 from free cash.
I make a motion to approve funding for $10,090 from free cash to fund electrical vehicle EV chargers.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second there. Discussion. Ralph?
Yes. Mike, I've got a question on the EV chargers. I know I've read some information and all. Ultimately, is the town receiving any receipts and all from the people using the chargers? So is there, I mean, I'm assuming there's a fee to use them because of the electricity. And I'm just wondering if the town over the years benefits from it at all, or if it's just a goodwill gesture that we're putting out there as far as the purchase of them.
To me, that's an accountability question, and I think Steve might have some answers for us.
The current plan, as I understand it, is to basically have it be a net zero. So we charge for the energy that we're charged for. So it'd be a slight fee, but it wouldn't be a revenue generator per se. Now, there may be some revenue generated, which would go into what they call a miscellaneous revenue only account. We'd appropriate as part of the line items, the energy for it. And so it should be negligible, but if electric cars take off the way we like to, it could become a little bit more, but we should be charging basically what we're being charged for the electricity.
Ralph, is that helpful?
That's helpful. And I'm just curious, how many chargers are we talking about? Are we looking at 2 of them? Are we looking at 20 of them? Great.
I believe 3, but
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Mike, I'm sorry, but I believe it's 3, and Bruce is in the audience if you want to bring him in, because he's done the research on this. I'm pretty certain it's 3 chargers. And he might also be able to offer some information about the usage fee.
Don, could you please bring Bruce in?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh,
There he is.
Mr. Bruce.
Hi,
Okay.
Bruce.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good, Bruce.
Good. So yes, these are 3 EV charging stations, but there's actually 6 charging ports. So there's one on each side of the charging stations. Okay, does that answer everybody's question?
I have a question. Just,
Yeah.
thank you. Bruce, curiously, where has discussion been had about where you would place these?
Yes, these are going to be placed at the library, at the southwest corner of that facility. Joe Dunn, our facilities manager, already met with Layla, the library director, and found a suitable spot in close proximity to the electrical panels that we need to tie into these units. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Bruce? And hearing and seeing none, we'll start the roll call vote. I'll start with myself. I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Kathy?
Yes.
Thank you, and thank you, Bruce.
Welcome.
Our next motion to approve funding of $17,560.76 from free cash.
I move to approve funding of $17,560.76 from free cash to eliminate the following deficits. Highway, Chapter 90, $4,839.44. Police, bulletproof vest, $7,275. DPW detail for the 2016 4th of July parade, $5,167. And payroll items, federal, state, and FICA taxes, $279.32.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Don?
Yeah, I'm just curious on the, again, I'm not opposed to funding it, but the 2016 4th of July parade, any back on that one? Back up?
The understanding I have is that they, I always get the two confused. The Lions were already, at the time, they're now defunct from what I understand, had
Please.
reimburse us for the 4th of July parade for certain costs. And this was one of them. It didn't get billed properly, and now they're not able to pay for it anymore now.
Okay.
And it's one of those things with free cash, deficits when they're on it, we get hit with it, and they expect you to clear it up the next year. And if you don't, they hit you a second time for it. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. And so with this, with free cash being what it is, I thought we'd clean it up now. And these are all really, these are not every deficit that we were subtracted from our free cash rule, but these are the ones that we don't think we'll be able to recover, or that will we've reconciled and can't get it. So that's why we have these listed here now.
Okay. Any other questions? Then we'll start the roll call vote with Kathy.
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Our next item, I would ask Marilyn if she has the document identified as loan number 1, if we could read that motion and the attached document that coincides with that. You have that in front of you, Marilyn?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Thank
I move that $950,000 is appropriated to pay costs of purchasing and installing 2 modular classrooms for the Mountain View School, including costs of demolishing, 2 existing modular classrooms and the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow said amount under General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1, or any other enabling authority, that the town manager is authorized to contract for and expend any federal or state aid available for the project, and that the town manager is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Thanks, Marilyn. So that would be the motion. I'll be looking for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing and seeing none. Connor?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next order of business, the document for loan order number 2. And that should be, what's that? And that's an amount of 1.2 million. Entertain a motion, please.
I move that 1,200,000 is appropriated to pay costs of designing, constructing, and reconstructing sidewalks throughout the town, including the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, parentheses 1, or any other enabling authority, that the town manager is authorized to contract for and expend any federal or state aid available for the project, and that the town manager is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bond or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you for that motion. And the second discussion. Okay, I'm going to start with myself up on the top here, and I'm a yes. Ralph?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Okay. Our last motion identified as loan order number 3. I'll entertain a motion in the amount of $524,530.
I move that $524,530 is appropriated to pay costs of purchasing and equipping a new vacuum truck for the use of the Department of Public Works, including the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, $250,000 shall be transferred from the Vehicle Reserve Fund. And 2, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $274,530 under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1, or any other enabling authority, that the town manager is authorized to contract for and expend any federal or state aid available for the project, and that the town manager is authorized to take any action or other action necessary to carry out this project. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by like amount. While this borrowing constitutes a general obligation to the town, it is expected that 1/2 of the debt service related to this borrowing shall be paid through amounts in the Stormwater Fund, and 1/2 of the debt service related to the borrowing shall be paid through amounts in the Sewer Fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Start with Connor,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Under new business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exemption under Section 20B of the Conflict of Interest Law.
I make a motion to approve the exemption under Section 20B of the Conflict of Interest Law for DPW employee Rob Johnson so that he may hold the position of East Long Meadow High School's JV/varsity wrestling coach.
And I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding that subject matter? Hearing and seeing none. Ralph?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Our next subject matter, still under new business, East Long Meadow's Green Community Status Update. Don, do we have Mark in the audience?
Yes, we do. Mike, he's on his way in.
Great. As you all know, Mark is the Regional Director under the Department of Energy Resources, and he can give us an update on what's taken place. Mark, as soon as you come off a mute, there you go. How are you tonight?
Good, everyone. How are you? Good evening.
I'm doing well and nice to see you. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate the update.
You too. Thank you for adopting the stretch code. That was great. I was watching that evening. That was one of your first steps in becoming a green community. Gene, can I share my screen? Is that how? Or if
Yes,
I want to show?
And Mark.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Can.
Yes.
And the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So I'm Mark Rubinski. I'm the Western Regional Coordinator for the Green Communities Program in the Department of Energy Resources for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So our discussion tonight is about the next steps that East Long Meadow has to take to attain Green Communities designation. There are 5 criteria that you have to meet. You've already met number 5. I think last month it was. You adopted the stretch energy code. And there are 4 that I'm going to discuss tonight as far as next steps go. So criteria 1 and 2, we kind of put together a little bit. Criteria 1 and 2 are, they were created as part of Mass General Law, which created the Green Communities Program, 25A, I think Chapter 10. They were created to spur alternative energy within the Commonwealth. So it relates to as-of-right siting and expedited permitting for alternative energy or renewable energy. And in order to be designated, you have to meet at least one of the following. You have to have as-of-right siting for renewable or alternative energy generating facilities like a solar field, like solar array or photovoltaic array. Wind is another alternative, but I don't think anyone's putting any wind in East Long Meadow. You can also meet it through renewable or alternative energy research and development facilities. So zoning having as of right zoning for research and R&D facilities, or manufacturing facilities is another way to meet that. So if you have an area that's designated towards that, then you would meet the criteria. I believe you've been working with Pioneer Valley Planning to meet criteria 1 and 2. I'm not sure at where that's at right now. You may have already identified that your zoning can meet this without any modifications, but if there are any modifications, you would need to do those prior to submitting your designation application. So the next steps would be you would have your legal counsel draft a letter saying that you know, they agree that East Long Meadows zoning guidelines as they stand meet this criteria as it's written. In addition to that, we ask that for any projects that are occurring within the as of right zoning district, you have expedited permitting. And expedited permitting is 1 year for permitting, which my predecessor, Jim Barry, in this position used to say that only Boston thinks that expedited permitting is 1 year. So I don't think, most towns around here don't have any issue saying that they can meet the expedited permitting. I'll stop there if there's any questions about criteria 1 or 2. Not seeing any. Okay. I'll go to criteria 3. Criteria 3 is one of the more involved criteria and one of the more, I guess, interactive with it. So criteria 3 states that the town has to create an energy baseline and create a plan to reduce their energy by 20% within 5 years. So the energy baseline is looking at all the energy that East Long Meadow creates, all of that it's responsible for, I should say. So municipal buildings, you know, town hall, town offices, fire station, police station, everything, schools are usually the biggest for a town. All of the town's vehicles and the school's vehicles as well need to be accounted for in this baseline of energy. Street lights, traffic lights, your wastewater treatment facilities, everything that the town is responsible for need to go into this baseline. And it needs to be calculated like we look at your MMBTU, which is your million British thermal units of energy. So we kind of, so we're comparing apples to apples because it's hard to compare diesel to electricity. So we're creating that standard. And then we provide you a tool to do this. It's called Mass Energy Insight. It's a website that you can add all of your information to. We're really lucky because Eversource can automatically upload that information into there. So if you give us the account numbers and put them in there, we work with Eversource to have that put it into the system, as well as any natural gas too. So electricity and natural gas would be automatically uploaded into that system, and then it calculates it for you. The only thing that's not automatically input in there are any delivered fuels. So if you have any oil, any propane, any gasoline or diesel, those would need to be input manually into the system so that we can calculate the baseline. And then you would have to keep this updated every year as well, because we have annual reporting to see how you're doing through the years. So once all of that's been put into MEI, we also want you, simultaneously, we want you to have audits done of your buildings. So the audits of your buildings would look at how much energy you can save, what technology you can implement in order to, you're gonna have to show that you can reduce your energy use by 20% within 5 years. And that's what the plan is showing. The audits are free. You can contact your utilities. I can give you your utility contact at Eversource. They can send out what they call PEXs. They're project expediters. They're There are vendors that work for the utilities to provide these for all the municipal buildings. So the schools, we need the schools, all the buildings in order to calculate that 20%. And then you take all that information and draft a plan. I know that PVPC, once again, has money to assist the town through this process to draft that plan and show us that the town is capable of meeting that 20% within the 5 years. The town council then approves that plan, that ERP. Also, the superintendent and school board or school board, whoever has authority, would also need to approve the energy reduction plan. And then you would submit that to us for approval as part of the designation application. Does anybody have any questions about the criteria 3?
This one.
Yep.
If I may. So I guess my first question is, although of course I think would all love to either meet or exceed the 20%, but is there any sort of like penalty or something that would happen if we didn't happen to meet that after the 5 years?
No, and I wouldn't say it's common, but it happens that communities don't meet that 20%. And we just want to work with you. We want to show that we want to find out why you're not meeting that 20%. Where are you? Because you'll be receiving designation money for this. So, how are you spending your money? If you're not meeting that 20%, let's look at MEI together and figure out where your energy is mostly being spent. So we're not going to take back the designation funds. That's not going to happen.
Okay. And then I have one more, if you don't mind. When it comes to the all vehicles category there, does that only include ones that like the town owns and operates, but not necessarily ones that we might contract out for other purposes?
Yeah, so one common question is that a lot of schools will contract out their school bus service, and that wouldn't fall into here. We only want to know about vehicles that you're responsible for purchasing and that you have that ownership over.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mark, quick question. Does this this doesn't go back at all? I mean, we've had some good advances as far as like the school and stuff with their lighting program, doing LEDs, LED street lights and all. So this is from today forwards, correct?
You can go back up to 2 fiscal years, depending on which improvements you've made during that time. It's pretty much now going forward. And the last year, with COVID, the last couple of years, you're going to get some pretty wonky data in there with buildings being shut down, or even with the schools sometimes using more energy to increase the air quality within there. So you're going to see some odd fluctuations.
Thank you.
Quick question on, do most communities opt to have the superintendent and the school board approve the ERP, or do they opt for one over the other?
I wrote that in there because because it depends on who the school believes has the authority to sign something like that and make that commitment. Oftentimes the superintendent will kick it to the school board to have their blessing over it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. I'll go on to criteria 4. So criteria 4 is specifically about fuel efficient vehicles. So what the way the legislation is written is that they want the community to purchase only fuel efficient vehicles for municipal use whenever such vehicles are commercially available and practical. We have, so as of right now, police cruisers and other emergency vehicles are exempt until they're commercially available. However, This will likely probably be going away, at least for police cruisers at some point, because police cruisers are commercially available with actually a lot of communities, even non-green communities, in East Long Meadow maybe as well, have been purchasing the new Ford Interceptor. That's a hybrid vehicle, and they're using that for their police vehicles. It's not that much more. I think it's running about $3,500 more than the traditional Interceptor, and some of the early numbers that we've seen has been it's paying back within the first year or two in terms of savings. So there will likely be a point in the near future that those police cruisers will be part of this. We'll make that part of this policy, and they'll have to meet our guidelines. There's a few police vehicles out there that can meet our guidelines. And then heavy duty vehicles like fire trucks, ambulances, some like heavier DPW trucks like plows, anything over an F-150. An F-150 would have to meet the fuel efficient vehicles, and it would meet our policy if you purchase an F-150. But anything over that, over 8,500 pounds, is exempt from the policy, because there's nothing commercially available that could actually meet our fuel efficient miles per gallon guidelines. And here are the guidelines. So we base it on whether it's 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, whether it's a car, a van, a pickup truck, an SUV. And then we have a formula in there to calculate the miles per gallon based on highway and in town. So this number does get updated every few years. The last time we updated this was 2020, because green communities have been around for 10 years, and miles per gallon, as a whole, keeps going up for the country. So we update this too. So part of the fuel efficient vehicle policy that you're saying you're only going to purchase fuel efficient vehicles is also saying that you're going to check with green communities for the current miles per gallon to make sure that any new purchases you may qualify for this. And there's a sample policy within the guidance documents that I had sent you as well. I think I sent you guidance documents for criteria 1 through 4, which you can work with Pioneer Valley Planning on too, because I know they have funds to support you. Any questions on criteria 4? So the next steps would be to send us an inventory of all your vehicles, and label which ones are exempt, which ones are not exempt. It has to be in Excel. And then the town council would approve the fuel efficient vehicle policy. Also the schools too. So the schools would have to approve it, and we would need a list of the schools' vehicles as well. Any questions on the fuel efficient vehicle policy? Okay, that's it for me right now in terms of the next steps. I have a sort of spreadsheet with all of this summarized in it that I can send to Pioneer Valley Planning. Jacinta Williams, who I believe is on the call. I don't know. I don't think she's been activated to talk, but would be your contact, and Catherine Rattay as well would be your contacts at PVPC. They're great to work with. They've brought other communities through this. So if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me with any questions, even if you have follow-ups, whenever, and I can answer those. But in terms of some of the work to do, I believe Bethany's leaving too, which might be a little actually, it'll be nice to have PVPC on with Bethany leaving. So if you have any questions, reach out.
Mark, thank you for sharing all the information with us this evening. I'm sure if you have any updates, you realize you can reach out to either Mary, Jeannie, myself, and again, thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next presentation from Don Mackey regarding broadband.
So we're gonna just do a little screen magic here. So I'm gonna mute you guys, and then Ryan's here with me. So we will get started in just a second. We're here. I have the head of the IT department with a computer problem. There we are.
Recording in progress.
You good?
We're good.
All right. So thank you for giving us the chance to go through this tonight. This is a status report. It's really just informational for the council. It summarizes research that we've really carried out. Well, I initially started about 3 years ago. And Ryan has certainly been part of that over the years, and eventually other members, Connor and Don Anderson, in particular, members of the Broadband Committee, which was appointed in September 2020. So a lot of the research behind this started prior, actually, to there being a Broadband Committee. It's the consensus of the committee at this point that broadband service should be considered a critical infrastructure for the town moving forward. And that we should pursue steps to sort of move us along that path. And to decide within the next, I would say, couple to few months, whether it is indeed prudent to consider a municipal broadband fiber network in town built on the fiber backbone. So let's go through the members. So the members of the Broadband Committee, myself, Connor O'Shea, Bruce Adams, who is not able to join us tonight, Ryan Quimby, Don Anderson, and Marion McNally. So a brief timeline of what got us here. In 2005, the town built the fiber backbone as part of a much larger project that used the right-of-way on the rail trail. Most of you know the history of that. That is initially and is currently still used only for municipal broadband services. I started in this position in 2008, and for that 10-year period, the question of why, or is it possible for the town to provide municipal internet has been a recurring conversation. And it's something that's been looked at, you know, sort of casually over the years. And then I finally decided in 2017, 2018, it was actually Councilor Anderson who, you know, raised the question again, can we look at this? And I thought it was prudent to do a little bit more serious research into the question and look at other communities and whatnot. In October of 2019, I actually prepared a preliminary report on my own. I submitted that to Mary. I think Don Anderson got a copy of it. I gave it to Ryan, just as sort of a framework for us to look at this question more formally. And Mary agreed and appointed the broadband committee in September of 2020. And we met from September through January. And at the end of that, at the end of January, our decision was, and we didn't vote, it wasn't a formal decision, but the consensus was the market and technology will address the need going forward. We had 5G coming online. It was what everybody was talking about. There are still, in fact, other providers besides cable internet available in town. Not a lot of people take advantage of them for a variety of reasons. We get into that a little bit, but we felt that it was probably not prudent to think about a broadband project right away and kind of wait and see. But we felt like we developed a framework to do that analysis and to be able to revisit that question every few months and see if things had changed. Spring of 2021, things did change. 3 things happened. Wilbraham published its broadband master plan, which is a very, very comprehensive document. There's a link to it or PDF, I think, attached in the material that I sent you. 5G rollout really started to stall out. And we can get into that more. Ryan can explain a little bit more about that. But where our initial assumption was that people would have wireless broadband to compete with cable broadband, turns out to be a lot more problematic than was being marketed, being sold, even by the sort of technology media. And then the question of ARPA funding, where there was this infusion of money for funding broadband infrastructure across the country. And the question arose, would any of what we could potentially do be eligible for ARPA funding? So Mary basically tasked us to revisit the question and look at it again, which we did more research over the summer. In October, the broadband committee met, looked at that information, and voted to move forward. Excuse me, I'm just going to check. See, Ryan can take over.
So where'd you leave off? You finished this slide?
October, that's fine. I just thought maybe that was Mike calling me or something. I don't usually get phone calls at night. So here we are in December, and really, I think it was a prudent move for us to continue to look at it. Other communities are actively working at various stages. Some are ahead of us, some are behind us. But certainly COVID changed a lot of the landscape as far as what the need is, what the demands are, and really what the opportunities are. So we can leave it there. You can see those last 2 bullet points. Maybe I'll let Ryan take those.
So as part of our next steps, which we can get to at the end of the presentation, are to kind of start playing catch up with our counterparts, our surrounding towns that have run with the ball a lot farther than we have. That starts with preliminary engineering. That starts with the actual broadband feasibility study for the town, as well as setting up an MLP, which is a municipal light plan, which is the town's mechanism to be able to sell this type of service. Much like a water sewer enterprise fund, the MLP is the de facto house for selling fiber services, network services. Doing that one?
Yep. So this is sort of repetitive. This is what we did. We researched existing models and strategies and to look at what the options are. And there are many options. And we did not do that as comprehensively as the report that, again, if you had a chance to go take a look at that from Wilbraham, and I think recently Brian linked to a couple of others. they're very comprehensive and they do a great job of looking at all those elements. But we wanted to do it as a committee and to not just sort of blindly say, oh, let's find somebody to tell us what this is about. We wanted to do some of the background work ourselves. So we did.
So we did. So it comes to the question, what is broadband? I think we all have a basic idea of what it is. So just to kind of set a foundation for that, we have originally the first offering was with telephone, the DSL, digital subscriber lines. It became quickly apparent that that infrastructure and that technology cannot keep up and hasn't, to the point where it's not really even classified as broadband anymore. We just figured we put it on there just for historical and just so somebody, because you always get the question, what options do you have? And DSL technically is an option. The other one is cable. Everyone loves Spectrum Internet, and that's what we have available here in town. That's not a non-exclusive cable franchise that the town negotiates, but that is for cable TV. Internet is not covered under our franchise agreement. So if another cable provider wanted to run their own infrastructure, they could. The thing is, they're not running cable infrastructures, they're running fiber infrastructures. Another option is cellular. So T-Mobile has been offering a home internet, 5G home internet pod, basically, which would replace the cable modem. Its average of speeds around 100 megs download, which is pretty equivalent to the base cable speeds. Another one is over-the-air broadcast. That's more of a one-way direction. So a lot of people that cut the cords and actually cancel their digital TV, cable TV, you can get a lot of your channels over there just with an HD antenna, but that's a one-way system. The next one, which is what our presentation is surrounding, is fiber to the home. That is running a pair of fibers, a certain number of fibers to every household and premise in town, and then aggregating those back to a central location. And what the Wilbraham report identified for us, which really got us interested again. I mean, I told Mary, this is probably the most exciting thing I've had at work in quite a long time, is instead of the town being an ISP, which was always our standard thinking, the town would be the middleman. So we would have the fiber of the home on the town's fiber network, which would then aggregate to like a meet me room, we could call it. And then ISPs just connect to that meet me room. What that gives us is it gives us open market competition. Any ISP can run their connection to that meet me room and then begin to offer services to people on our fiber to the home network. And where it gets even more interesting is when we start partnering with surrounding towns. So Wilbraham's going ahead. I just forwarded Don an email yesterday.
Yep.
City of Springfield is now, they're a couple steps behind us. They're playing catch up on it. Same thing with Ludlow, Longmeadow, South Hadley, Wilbraham, we already know. Hamden is jumping on with Wilbraham. It's definitely a big move. I have some more documentation that was in the 45 emails I received yesterday, and I can forward that along too about where most of the towns stand as far as this process goes. So when you look at broadband in the cable infrastructure and how the cable infrastructure has actually been successful for the most part, for what we've needed it for, is the majority of people use a download speeds. So when you look at what you're paying for your cable, you'll get, it'll say like 100 meg down and 25 up. That upload, you don't use as much for general internet consumption. Where it starts to become much more needed is when you're using voice phones, video conferencing. That's where you need your upload speeds. That's where it starts to get a lot more in demand and a lot more it gets used up.
That's an interesting statistic there. that upstream broadband traffic increased 63% in 1 year nationwide from 2019 to December to 2020. And we know, that was home learning, remote learning, remote work. And the need for remote employees to move large files from home. The whole dynamic of the internet being, we think about the past 10 years, say, Netflix and people downloading movies and music and that kind of thing as being a sort of one-way highway. That radically changed in a very short time, and it's not going to go back. So this becomes much more of an issue.
So the thing with fiber is it's an optical technology. So even with one fiber connection, you can run a full duplex connection, which means you can have traffic going on one fiber in both directions and they don't collide. The easiest way to explain it is if you're shining different color flashlights in either direction, they're not going to overlap because it's different color light. That's how fiber works, but you can use, I believe it's up to 256 different colors right now.
And a huge amount of data.
Huge.
So real basically, as data expands, the capacity of a copper cable going to the house on a network that was built initially 40 years ago is strained. And that's why you have residents who are struggling for not really getting the thing that they think they're paying for. Video streaming is it devours bandwidth, aging infrastructure, and the reinvestment cost, right? The reinvestment cost is significant. The reason, and I've explained this probably 150 times at various meetings over the years, of why we don't have another cable company to compete with Charter. It is a very expensive proposition to come in and start from scratch to build a network like this, and that nobody's going to build a cable network because cable is an obsolete technology. So we're positioned, you'll see in a couple of slides, with a fiber backbone. We have a substantial, foundation for a fiber optic network. We'll get into more information. And another key thing, the bandwidth that people pay for that's advertised is distributed to nodes and neighborhoods. But that amount, that sort of so-called 100 meg download speed, is not going, each subscriber is not getting that 100 megabyte. That's going maybe to the end of the street, maybe to the block. And at any given moment, depending on who's using it, that gets shuffled around and redistributed. So during periods of high use, people's internet connections slow way down because they're sharing that bandwidth at that moment in time with up to potentially 350 people. We'll see in a minute.
Good.
Yep. Real quickly, so cable broadband is available basically to anybody in East Long Meadow, 99.5% of the households. It is cable. It is owned by the cable company. The reason we only have one cable company is, as I've explained, they built that cable system back in the early 80s. They own it. It's proprietary from end to end. And there is really no competitive reason for someone else to come in and try to duplicate that. Satellite internet is available to 100% of households. Anybody right now can get satellite internet. The two providers in town are HughesNet and Viasat. They're more expensive. They don't do a lot of heavy advertising. They tend to be commercial, appeal to commercial users. And they don't bundle that with telephone and cable TV. I mean, that's another part of the picture here. We're only talking about internet service. And there's some standard rates there. So the big player was going to be the cellular internet, the wireless internet, and T-Mobile is doing that at a competitive price with competitive speeds. The problem is the antennas. If you've been following a little bit of the discussion going on with the zoning board and the planning board regarding the cell tower down on Meadowbrook Road, as you get to frequencies that allow more data to go faster through the air, you need more powerful antennas, and the data doesn't travel as far. So you need them closer together, and you need more power to run them. And when speeds and demand is continuing to increase, then you have to have more and more and more of those antennas. They're very expensive. People don't want them in their backyards. People don't want them on street poles. People are concerned about radiation. So all of those things have contributed to the 5G rollout being more problematic than maybe people anticipated.
And the big thing with cellular internet is one of the terms you hear a lot with any provider is oversubscription. So like Don was alluding to earlier, where you're sharing your bandwidth with your neighborhood, or as we're going to show in a map, a much larger area, it's oversubscribed. So they'll run, probably a 1 gig connection to a certain pod that's then distributed. They're going to sell more speed on top of that, but they have enough to cover it because not everyone uses 100% of their internet speed all the time. Cellular is like 10 times more than that. If there's ever a disaster event or anything that goes on with that, you can't even make a phone call to cellular networks because their networks get overloaded.
Right.
So now if you start putting a regular home internet on, now you have all the smart devices in someone's house that are a constant demand. You have home cameras, you have the Ring cameras. Obviously I'm a different scenario, but I have like 60 devices in my house that connect to the internet. That's excessive, I know. But the cellular network won't be able to handle the saturation that the cable network can, because the cable network's actually wired, or obviously the fiber to the home network.
And the capacity is like tens of thousands times greater with fiber.
Easily, yep. So here's kind of just a little graphic about the different speeds to try and help visualize it. Verizon DSL's that little speck at the top, it's not really a viable solution. Satellite internet for the options that are currently provided, those are the speeds that they're pushing. The cellular internet, that's the T-Mobile. Again, that's with our current saturation levels. If every house in East Long Meadow went out and bought a T-Mobile hotspot tomorrow, that would absolutely tank and people wouldn't be able to even access it. Spectrum internet, we're all familiar with, is the base pay is 100, or base plan is 100 meg down with 10 megs up. And then the open access fiber to the home project, it's the base that we're looking at and would be developed more so in the study is 1 gig symmetrical. That's 1,000 megabits per second down and up. I would like to see the network built out for up to 10 gig. It's really a standard on the higher end networking stuff. So we just finished our core network upgrade and we did 100 gig, which is a lot faster. That's on the higher end, but if we can build our network to at least offer the option of 10 gig and use that for certain scenarios, there's the technology is there. Right. Because like I was saying, you can use, it's called WDM, where you can use different color lights and you can run 100 gig, 256 times in each direction on a single fiber.
On one fiber.
That's a lot. So here's kind of the networks compared. The one on the left is our municipal fiber network. That is where we are right now. Excuse me. And then some of those lines are conduit only, just really on Parker Street. So this services the municipal buildings. And I know when you hear municipal buildings, you're thinking town buildings and schools. This also services a lot of our pump stations. So a lot of our major pump stations that someone can actually walk into, we have fiber there for our SCADA monitoring system. We also have fiber runs to certain areas for cameras. So we have cameras on Harkness, North Main. We have cameras in the park and then the center. So as the Spectrum network on the right, they have 15 fiber nodes, which service around 350 customers each. So if they have a 10 gig connection connecting to a node, that's then split up between 350 subscribers.
So just to clarify, so they have fiber coming from their head end in Chicopee, right? They have a fiber optic cable that runs to 15 different nodes in town, scattered around town. And from there, it goes back to coax, copper coax cable for the remainder of the network to the houses. And we have 20 nodes, or maybe
I think it's like 34.
Okay, so, but that gives you an idea of what exists in East Long Meadow and what we would be building off of. And the idea would be in some fashion or other to basically leverage that substantial fiber network as the basis for building out to individual homes. And those would then be individual connections. Each subscriber would have a full gigabit or 10 gigabit
full
connection.
fiber, which is, it's the technology keeps growing, this throughput keeps growing, that you can push through a single or pair of fibers. Some of the other side benefits are we can connect other pump stations that we don't have on there. We can do additional traffic cameras. I just today had the police ask me again about getting cameras up at Four Corners. When we have a network that connects out to more places or covers a lot of the streets, we can then leverage additional services like that. Between the cameras, the different types of monitoring for SCADA, connecting to all the other schools we may have or parks, it just gets us a network connection where we can then run any service we need to out there. So the big question, and everybody loves Elon Musk and everything he's doing and him on Twitter with Starlink. It's definitely a great option when it comes around. It has the same limitations, I believe, that 5G would have, where if it's fully saturated and adapts to the level that the cable network has, looking at multiple towns, it won't be able to cover that without having, even now they're planning a lot of satellites just to cover what they're anticipating.
Yeah, and even the price point that they're looking at already prices it above or comparable to cable internet. It's really geared toward making a better broadband product available to places that are underserved currently. Large expanses of rural sort of Central America, Middle America, center of the country. So it probably would not be a competitive option in a community like East Long Meadow, because we actually do have a number of options that people can choose. The problem is, I think what we're trying to do is look at how desirable are those options, how attractive are those options for the potential of what the community could do in the future with a really robust fiber network. That opens up a lot of possibilities for the community as a whole, not just for resident choice.
All right. So looking at the different networks and kind of comparing them, our current fiber network is, for the most part, fully underground, where coax is aerial. The fiber can go aerial, but that would have to be worked out with the pole leases or buying out the poles. That's something that the study would cover. The fiber optic networks are at least 99.99% reliable. They would have a distributed share connection, but your speeds are much greater. Having the cables run on the poles make them susceptible to weather and climate. It's so like the Wilbraham plan, they worked out either aerial on poles or in the ground. I think they're going in the ground. You know, that's something that we would have to determine on our end. Also, so the fiber project doesn't eliminate the cable network. It's just another alternative. Right. It's a network that the town would run or own that internet providers could use, or another benefit is doing virtual private networks. So if Lennox has employees in town, they can run a secure independent network to those employees at home, completely separate, not over the internet.
Using the fiber. Using this fiber. So it has incredible potential on the business side, I think. And Spectrum would be able to provide internet through the fiber network if they wanted to be a provider through our network. So this just, I think, reiterates what we've been suggesting here in terms of the economic benefit of this. It would allow for, right, data intensive products and services that might want to locate to town. And I was not able to, but I had wanted to reach there's a company down in the Deer Park Industrial Park. It used to be called Sudicor. I think the name has changed, but the product that they make is actually the printed pattern layer for resilient floor coverings. So they basically print huge sheets of patterns of stone, tile, wood, whatever, all digital patterns. They're printed and manufactured there. They don't manufacture the floor covering, they just manufacture that layer. Now the files that are needed to print from, and those design files are huge files. I don't know what they do for internet. I guarantee you they don't have 100 up, 10 down, or 100 down, 10 up charter home internet, right? It's just, it'd be impossible. But to provide community-wide a resource like this, it just opens up a whole side of business development that, with the shift to home-based work and a more creative-based economy, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. But anyway, that's me. You can tell we're both excited about it. So the kind of making some assumptions from the Wilbraham plan and speculating what we would be looking at for our network would be the town would install and own the network from the households to the meet me area, meet me room. From there, internet providers can provide services from that point to our residents. The other options are, like I said before, there's the private networking for businesses in town. There was one of them I was just thinking of that I forgot, but it facilitates much greater, or actually really any competition for internet providing, internet service providing, and can definitely lower the cost. Yeah, so if you imagine that so right now, I mean, one of the reasons that the incumbent provider, right, owns a 40-year-old network, is working within its own cost and investment structure to improve that network, because I'm sure they do want to improve their service, but it's expensive. and they're gonna weigh that against their revenues. But they're maintaining the network and providing 3 kinds of service and doing all the billing and all of that for those 3 services. They're paying a fortune for television programming. So all of that is this sort of one big chunk, right? That has to be maintained and make a profit. It's sort of like the Titanic. This model, the town only owns the fiber network. The content is provided by third-party providers that contract with the resident, with the individual homeowner. You're just using the network to facilitate that transaction. So the ISPs don't have to carry the infrastructure cost because they're getting a free connection to it, basically. And the homeowner is paying part of their internet cost is for the cost of the network, right? For their town side to own that. And then they contract with an ISP or 2 ISPs or 3 ISPs. They can have as many as they want. They're going to a marketplace and shopping for the best deal that gives them what they want for the best price. And those prices are competitive because those ISPs are not trying to carry the overhead of the infrastructure. So
one of the other things I wanted to add about the town owning its network is with us having the presence to all the homes, that gives us the ability to provide a 0 internet cost at like a lower speed, either through the library, or through the schools,
right.
Provide school internet over this network. With the pandemic and remote learning, we had I think it was a bad internet day where Charter had problems, Spectrum had problems, and Superintendent Smith had to cancel school.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's never been heard of before. And, that's because it's based off of an infrastructure that's older than I am. Well, maybe not yet anymore, but close. So we got 2 more slides, then we'll open up for questions. We'll go through this pretty quick. I know the meeting's getting long. So the municipal light plant, Don's gonna give us a little more information on that, kind of the steps that have to be taken on it.
Right. So in order for any community in Massachusetts to operate a public utility, which would be distinct from the water and sewer, because every community can do that, but electric, gas, and what got rolled into that back in the days of cable was actually what do they call a cable antenna television system. All right, has to apply for a designation by the Commonwealth as a municipal lighting plant. It's there, Chapter 164. And in order, we just sort of skip to the important parts here. You need to have it. We could not do this project without an MLP designation. Wilbraham got theirs 2 or 3 years ago. It requires 2 votes of the legislative body in the community in separate fiscal years. And if those 2 votes are affirmative, it then goes to a ballot question at the next municipal election or the next election. So I guess the goal would be to sort of give you time to process this information and ask more questions over the next couple of months, but to then consider at some point in the late winter, early spring, the possibility of a first vote for MLP adoption. MLP requires nothing of the community. It doesn't cost any money. You don't then have to have a utility. All you are doing for the 2 initial procedural votes by the council is saying, yes, we understand we need this in order to move forward with the possibility of providing internet network for the town, and we approve that. So if by this time frame you were to have an initial vote affirmative vote before the end of the fiscal year, you could then schedule another consideration and a second vote in the new fiscal year. It has to be in 2 separate fiscal years. So conceivably, you could have one on June 28th and one on July 6th, but probably not that close together. And then ultimately it would go to the community on a ballot question. And all those 3 things have to happen. And all those things happened in Wilbraham. And you may have seen last week, 2 weeks ago, the city of Northampton completed that process, and the ballot measure passed in Northampton by 93% favorable.
So I know we had talked about the surrounding towns and where they are. Wilbraham kind of was really our eye opener and what we had been following. Longmeadow, I'm pretty close with my counterpart in Longmeadow, and he's kind of an ex officio on our broadband committee, but he's now trying to bring that over into Longmeadow. Chicopee has been pushing out their fiber network, the Crossroads Fiber. Holyoke has fiber. They're a little different with they actually have electric companies. Whip City Fiber out of Westfield is pushing through West Springfield and obviously Westfield. The city of Northampton is very in favor of it. 91% in favor from their election, their ballot vote. Westfield already has Whip City Fiber. South Hadley. My brother lives in South Hadley, and he just switched over to their, I forget what they call it. It's like,
I don't know what that was.
Lightning connection. I don't know, whatever it's called. But and then I can follow up with an email about a summary of the towns in our area, really more so Massachusetts, and where they stand. There's at least 15 more that are pursuing it or are farther ahead than we are. With the most recent one coming out of the city of Springfield yesterday.
So again, and there was a much more detailed version of this PowerPoint that I think was sent to you, on the last page of which are actual links to really a lot of information going back again to 2018. So I think we tried to do some due diligence in terms of research and presenting data that's accurate and reliable. It changes. I mean, I guess that's the key takeaway, right? This all changes every couple of months, and we just want to try to position the town to be prepared to make a smart decision when the opportunity presents itself to make that decision. So, and I want to also thank Connor, did a huge amount of research when we were meeting as a broadband committee, and Don Anderson, it was and Mary for really encouraging us and agreeing that this seemed like a pretty great opportunity for the town to consider. So I guess that's it. You got any questions?
I would ask, does anyone have any questions at this point in time? I can certainly say I appreciate that all the legwork that went into this, and not only is it available, I want to say in the documents that you put together, but both of you being very approachable individuals, I'm sure will have quite a few questions, and that's where I am at this point, but we'll open the floor up for anybody else that might have any questions right now. Ralph?
So if I understand correctly, the MLP adoption process should really be kicked in, and let's get that going, because even if we do adopt it, we don't have to use it if we choose not to.
Yep.
And so then a feasibility study, I'm assuming what that's going to do is look at cost factors and give us a general idea. Hey, if we run the fiber to every household in town, what the cost of putting it in is.
Right.
So,
I would really encourage you to look at that Wilbraham study, It's available to you. It is very detailed. I don't know, it's 80, 100 pages. I mean,
It's detailed and it's not, like a typical report you get where it's hard, like boring to read. It's actually, well, I guess it's probably a little more interesting for me to read, but it's got good information in there and it's spelled out very well.
and it lays out the different scenarios, right?
Right.
So if you did it underground versus aerial, and the model, like, so do you do this, one of the big things, we didn't get into this because I think it's premature.
Our original slideshow was like 70 slides.
Right. But, you have to talk about, like, how are you going to pay for this, right? And so one of the models and one of the things that led us early on to the conclusion was, I don't know if it really makes sense, is you are entering in East Long Meadow, as much as it doesn't seem like it, a competitive market for internet service. Now, I do think that has fundamentally changed in the past 6 months. But prior to that, you had an incumbent provider that provides 90% of the internet to residents. And for any other private competitor to come in, they made the calculation a long time ago. We're never going to get a take rate that is we'll never see a return on the investment. Now, two things are different for us, at least two things. We have the fiber backbone in place, right? Fiber is a far, 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 far superior product, right? So in some ways, we can leverage that in a way that an outside competitor coming in couldn't do. But the other thing is, so one of the models is, do you build this based on take rate? Do you get enough people in any given neighborhood to sign up? And then once you get the signups, and this is a model a lot of the communities we talked about follow, then you get enough money and you do a section at a time. That's what Chicopee's doing. So it's a slow rollout based on, as people subscribe and see, oh, this is going to be a better deal, then they get those subscriptions and then they build out. Or there's another option is, do you build it out to everybody and do it as a betterment, right? And then you basically have it in town and people can subscribe or not. Now, that puts a burden on property owners that I don't favor that necessarily, but the point is the Wilbraham report lays out in really a lot of detail the economics of all those options. Yeah. And in a way, much better than we can do, right? So that's the benefit of a feasibility study is it's going to be a document that allows you to make a very knowledge-based decision.
Any other questions? Well, again, I want to thank you both for all the information. I'm sure anything that we seek, you guys have the answers for, and we can kind of look at Wilbraham that's rolling out their model. And 22 is right around the corner, so I would consider that one of our actions in 22 to take the first step. But thanks again for joining us this evening. We really
well, thanks for all the time.
Yeah, this was really kind of to get everybody's attention on it,
right?
Get everybody excited for it, get it out to the residents, so the residents can start calling you guys about it, and then you'll see us again with this topic, hopefully sometime early in 22.
Okay, thank you so much,
Don Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, great job, guys. You spelled it out so well, and we've even had a few viewers on Facebook that were watching. It's a beautiful thing. Question: we talk about residents, but it's also for businesses as well, correct?
Absolutely.
And they can, and if they're concerned about, because I know we have businesses in East, in East Long Meadow, including the one that my wife and I own, and we had to buy static IPs and so forth. Those kind of things are still going to be available as well moving forward when this is set up.
Yep. That'll be available, and you can
get it's going to be faster service. You can use voice over IP phone systems. and so many other technology that's just going to be part that you're going to be able to save money on as well.
Yep, you could add your house to the same network, so now it's all on its own private network.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing we didn't touch on, and I want to be careful about even bringing it up, but relative to cost, one of the things that this, let's just say that preliminarily, based on the conversations we had over the summer, this has potential to provide substantial savings, depending on how it's rolled out to residents for what they pay for, 10 times the product.
Yeah.
Like almost half of what they're paying now. Now, whether that plays out or not,
That's what we need the report for, the feasibility study.
the feasibility, but it will lay out those costs. And I think you'll be impressed with, not only is this a better thing, but it's
cheap, actually cheaper.
It's cheaper. So, all right. Well, we used a lot of time, but thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
I got to go back to my other chair now.
All right. So our final item, I want to say action items for our next meeting. Obviously, I would consider this an action item for sometime in January. And Community Paradigm, I'm sure we'll be excited to hear what they have and bring forward to us in January as well. Other than that, this is kind of a wrap up for 21. It went awful quick. Our next meeting's scheduled for January 11th and 2022, obviously. And everybody's contributed lots and lots of time and effort to make 21 work the way it did. So I just want to thank everybody for their time and commitment. And I hope you have a great Christmas and a great New Year's. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon enough. That being said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I will second that.
I'm not even going to ask if there's any further discussion. I'm a yes. Ralph?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. We're adjourned at, what is it? 8:12. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Good evening.
Night.